Welcome to my channel about treating diabetes. Today we are heading into a supermarket. We will walk along the aisles, pick up products, and analyze their ingredients, whether they can be eaten with diabetes or not. Believe me, it will be both interesting and useful. You will definitely be surprised by how many familiar foods actually raise blood sugar. Here we are at the entrance, trolleys, checkouts, and immediately to the left the refrigerated shelves with drinks and vegetables. This is where we will start our tour. Great! We have reached the fruit section. This is one of the most deceptive aisles for people with diabetes. Friends, attention! In front of us are bright, juicy, and very attractive fruits. But this is where the biggest trap for people with diabetes is hidden. What looks healthy and full of vitamins can instantly raise blood sugar. First product, apricots, the yellow fruits in the center. Here are apricots. 100 grams of apricots contain approximately 9 to 10 grams of sugars. One small apricot weighs about 30 to 35 grams and contains around 3 grams of sugar. That seems little, but who eats only one apricot? With diabetes, this leads to a blood sugar spike. Second product, plums on the left. Plums also look deceptively safe. 100 grams of plums contain 10 to 11 grams of sugars, including fructose and glucose. Fructose is especially dangerous because it is converted into fat in the liver, raises triglycerides and cholesterol, and worsens insulin resistance. Third product, cherries at the top, the dark berries. Cherries may taste sour, but 100 grams contain about 12 grams of sugar. That is a lot. For a person with diabetes, it is an immediate glucose surge and extra stress on the blood vessels and the pancreas. Fourth product, apples on the right. Apples are a classic. 100 grams of apples contain from 11 to 13 grams of sugar, depending on the variety. One apple weighs 180 to 200 grams. That is more than 20 grams of sugar. For a person with diabetes, this equals 4 to 5 teaspoons of sugar. Blood glucose and insulin rise quickly. As you can see, all these bright and beautiful fruits are a real sugar explosion. For a person with diabetes, they can be even more dangerous than candies. Write in the comments which fruit you ate most often while thinking it was healthy. Remember, with diabetes, the only safe fruits are avocado and olives. Everything else is a source of sugar and risk of complications. Do not worry. We will soon analyze tasty and healthy alternatives. Subscribe so that you do not miss the next episode. We have come to the largest display of apples and nectarines. At first glance, this looks like a treasure of vitamins. But for people with diabetes, it is one of the most dangerous zones of the supermarket. Friends, attention! These bright green and red apples and the juicy nectarines look like a symbol of health. But the truth is that for a person with diabetes, this is a real sugar explosion. Green apples, right side and top left. Many people think green apples are safer, but 100 grams still contain 11 to 12 grams of sugar. One apple weighs 180 to 200 grams, which means 20 to 24 grams of sugar, or almost 5 teaspoons. This is a guaranteed rise in glucose and insulin. Red apples, bottom right. Red varieties are often even sweeter. They can contain up to 13 grams of sugar per 100 grams. So a single apple can raise blood sugar as quickly as a bun or a cookie. It is a serious stress for blood vessels and the pancreas. Mixed apples, center. Even if these are less sweet varieties, the sugar content is still above what is safe. For a person with diabetes, it is the same load as a dessert. Nectarines, center, red yellow fruits. Nectarines are relatives of peaches. 100 grams contain about 11 to 12 grams of sugar. They look refreshing, but their fructose quickly turns into fat in the liver, raises triglycerides and cholesterol, and increases insulin resistance. Look at this, a whole mountain of fruit, and not a single one is safe for a person with diabetes. Write in the comments, did you know that apples and nectarines can raise blood sugar just like sweets? Remember, for people with diabetes, the only safe fruits are avocado and olives. Everything else is hidden sugar. In the next episode, we will look at another aisle and find foods that really help keep sugar under control. Subscribe so that you do not miss it. Excellent. We have reached the shelf with citrus fruits and pears. Here we have several risky fruits for people with diabetes, although they often appear healthy. Friends, attention. Many people think oranges, pears, and mandarins are full of vitamins. But for a person with diabetes, they are sugar traps. Now I will explain why each fruit on this shelf can be dangerous. Oranges, top right shelf. One orange weighs about 150 to 200 grams. 100 grams contain approximately 9 to 10 grams of sugar. So a single fruit can contain up to 20 grams of sugar, that is 4 teaspoons. Fructose from an orange quickly turns into fat in the liver, raises triglycerides, and worsens insulin resistance. Pomelo, top left shelf, large yellow fruits. Many people think pomelo is safer because it tastes less sweet, but 100 grams still contains 6 to 7 grams of sugar. One fruit can weigh up to 1 kilogram, and that means 60 to 70 grams of sugar. This is a huge load for the pancreas. Mandarins, bottom right shelf in boxes. A small fruit, but deceptive. 100 grams of mandarins contain 10 to 11 grams of sugar. And who stops at one mandarin? People usually eat 3 to 4, which is already 30 to 40 grams of sugar. For a person with diabetes, that is a spike similar to eating a sweet pastry. Pears, bottom left shelf, green fruits. 100 grams of pears contain 9 to 10 grams of sugar, and about half of that is fructose. Fructose is tricky because it does not immediately raise blood glucose, but it quickly deposits as fat in the liver. That is a direct path to fatty liver disease and even stronger insulin resistance. Look, an entire display of colorful fruit. Yet for a person with diabetes, they are equally dangerous. Write in the comments. Did you eat mandarins or pears thinking they were safe? Remember, for people with diabetes, any sweet fruits are hidden sugar. The only safe options are avocado and olives. In the next episode, we will examine another supermarket shelf and find foods that truly help control blood sugar. Subscribe and follow the series. Great. Now we are at the grape section and one of the most dangerous fruits for people with diabetes. Let us look closely. Friends, attention. On this shelf lies a fruit that can be worse than candy for a person with diabetes. It is grapes. It looks like a small berry, but inside it is a real sugar blast. Black grapes, left. 100 grams of black grapes contain about 16 to 18 grams of sugars. These are mostly glucose and fructose, which raise blood sugar immediately. A cup of grapes is like drinking a sweet soda. The hit to the pancreas is instant. Red grapes, right. Red grapes are not better. They also contain 16 to 17 grams of sugars per 100 grams. If you take a whole bunch, that can be 50 to 70 grams of sugar. Imagine that is 12 to 14 teaspoons. There is almost no fiber, so the sugar is absorbed very quickly. Some of you may think, what is wrong if I eat 5 or 6 berries? But even a small handful of grapes already gives 8 to 10 grams of sugar. That is comparable to half a chocolate bar. Remember, grapes are among the sweetest fruits and are strictly prohibited with diabetes. If you want a snack, choose safe products, avocado, olives, cucumbers, or cheese snacks without sugar. Now we are at the citrus bin. I can see oranges on the left in packaging and yellow lemons or grapefruits next to them. Let us break down what this means for people with diabetes. Friends, attention. These bright citrus fruits look like a symbol of health, but for people with diabetes, a tricky trap is hidden inside. Oranges, left. 100 grams of orange contain approximately 8 to 9 grams of sugars. These are fructose and glucose that raise blood sugar immediately. One medium orange weighs about 150 grams, which means you will get around 13 to 14 grams of pure sugar. That equals 3 teaspoons of sugar. Verdict: oranges are prohibited with diabetes until remission. They worsen insulin resistance, overload the liver, and can provoke glucose spikes. Lemon. Lemon is a separate case. It contains only 2 to 3 grams of sugar per 100 grams, but we usually do not eat lemons whole. We use a slice or some juice as a flavoring. Lemon is safe in small amounts and can be useful because it does not raise blood sugar but improves the taste of dishes. Grapefruit. If this is grapefruit, the situation changes. 100 grams contain around 7 grams of sugars, and a single fruit weighs 200 to 250 grams. That is already 14 to 16 grams of sugar, similar to an orange. Grapefruit is also prohibited with diabetes. Now a question for you. Many people consider oranges and grapefruit healthy for diabetes. What do you think? Write in the comments. Have you eaten citrus fruits after your diagnosis? Remember, oranges and grapefruit are categorically prohibited with diabetes. Lemon in small quantities is a safe option. The best alternatives are fresh cucumbers, green vegetables, or avocado. We have reached the box with kiwi fruit. Let us see what this means for people with diabetes. Friends, many people are sure that kiwi fruit can be eaten freely with diabetes, but is that really true? Kiwi fruit composition. In 100 grams of kiwi fruit, there are 10 to 11 grams of carbohydrates, about 5 grams of fructose, about 4 grams of glucose, plus a small amount of sucrose. There is fiber, approximately 2 to 3 grams, which slightly slows sugar absorption. But the total amount of fast sugars remains high. An average kiwi fruit weighs 75 to 100 grams. This means that a single fruit provides 10 to 12 grams of sugars. That is at least 2.5 teaspoons of sugar. If you eat 2 kiwi fruits, that is already 20 to 24 grams of sugar, which is very dangerous for a person with diabetes. People often ask me, Doctor, but kiwi fruit contains vitamin C and antioxidants. Is it not beneficial? Yes, but the cost is too high, a glucose spike and potential complications. What do you think? Write in the comments. Have you eaten kiwi fruit after your diagnosis? Kiwi fruit is prohibited with diabetes until remission. Better alternative? Fresh cucumbers or celery, spinach leaves, arugula, avocado. These foods provide vitamins and fiber without a glucose spike. Subscribe and keep watching. Now we are looking at peaches. This is one of the most debatable fruits for people with diabetes. Let us examine it carefully. Friends, who loves aromatic, juicy peaches? They seem like a symbol of summer and health. But let us be honest. Can they be eaten with diabetes? One medium peach weighs 150 to 200 grams. That means a single fruit can provide 18 to 20 grams of sugars. That is already 4 to 5 teaspoons of sugar in your body. Yes, peaches look healthy because of vitamins, but their sweetness is a hidden threat for a person with diabetes. Have you eaten peaches after your diagnosis? How did your glucose respond? Write in the comments. Peaches are prohibited with diabetes until remission. Alternatives: cucumbers or eggplants, zucchini or spinach, green salad or avocado. These foods provide fiber and beneficial nutrients without glucose spikes. Excellent. On this shelf we see avocado, a rare fruit that is an exception for people with diabetes. Let us break down why it is unique. Friends, did you know there are only 2 fruits that can be safely eaten with diabetes? One of them is avocado. Here is why it is unique. Avocado composition per 100 grams. Calories, 160 kilocalories. Protein, 2 grams. Fat, 15 grams, mostly monounsaturated fats, omega-9, which are good for heart and blood vessels. Carbohydrates, 8.5 grams, of which only 0.7 grams of sugars and about 6.7 grams of fiber. In other words, there are practically no net carbohydrates. Unlike apples, grapes, or peaches, avocado does not cause glucose spikes. Fiber slows carbohydrate absorption. Monounsaturated fats improve insulin sensitivity. Avocado lowers low-density lipoprotein cholesterol and reduces inflammation. This is not a fruit trap, but a real ally for a person with diabetes. Avocado is a fruit that does not raise blood sugar, strengthens blood vessels, and helps fight fatty liver. How do you prefer to eat avocado? In a salad or spread on low-carbohydrate crisp breads? Write in the comments. Avocado is allowed with diabetes. Unlike most fruits, it is safe and even beneficial. Now we are at the row with dates and other dried fruits. Friends, attention. This is one of the largest traps for people with diabetes. It seems that dates and dried fruits are a healthy alternative to sweets. But the truth is that for people with diabetes, they are real sugar bombs. Let us see why. Dates composition per 100 grams. Calories, 277 kilocalories. Protein, 2 grams. Fat, 0.2 grams. Carbohydrates, 75 grams, of which about 33 grams glucose, about 33 grams fructose, about 8 grams sucrose. Fiber, only 7 grams. This means that almost the entire mass of dates is fast sugars. Dates are a hidden enemy for a person with diabetes. Even 2 to 3 pieces can raise blood sugar as much as a whole chocolate bar. If you want to keep your glucose stable, dates and other dried fruits are best completely avoided. They are 3 to 4 times more dangerous than fresh fruit. Which products still make you uncertain? Write in the comments and we will analyze them in future episodes. Now about blueberries and figs. They appear to be natural and healthy. But are they safe for people with diabetes? Let us find out right here at the shelf. Blueberries contain many antioxidants, but for diabetes, the main problem is sugars. Even a small handful, 70 to 80 grams, provides almost 8 grams of fast carbohydrates. This can cause a noticeable rise in blood sugar. Figs are a true sugar concentrate. Even one fresh fig, about 40 grams, contains roughly 7 grams of sugar. If it is dried figs, the numbers are even higher, up to 60 grams of carbohydrates per 100 grams. Yes, both blueberries and figs are considered healthy, but for a person with diabetes, they are sources of fast sugars that cannot be ignored. Friends, blueberries and figs are beautiful and tasty, but with diabetes, they are dangerous for blood sugar. It is better to replace them with low-carbohydrate vegetables and healthy fats. When was the last time you ate figs? Write in the comments, and be sure to watch other episodes where I explain the hidden risks of fruits for diabetes. Final summary of the fruit section. Friends, we have just walked through the fruit section. It may seem that everything here is natural and healthy, but for people with diabetes, most fruits carry a hidden danger. They contain a lot of glucose and fructose that raise blood sugar within minutes. The exceptions are avocado and olives, which are safe and beneficial. Therefore, the main takeaway is this: even the most healthy-looking fruits are sugar traps. Vegetables, nuts, and seafood, on the other hand, can be real allies in keeping blood sugar normal. Now, a question for you. Which aisle of the supermarket do you want to visit with me next? The dairy section, the meat section, or perhaps the baked goods aisle?